Hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking into this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer in the back, Jeremy Carr, here with your host in the front row, Heather Pierce. So, why don't you tell them what's on the agenda for today, Heather?
So, in continuing our very deep discussions on women's health, we are again touching on another part of the women's health universe. Today's discussion is with Monica Rutkowski Grippo. She is the founder and CEO of Rhea, which is a community supporting women through pregnancy loss and infertility, which is currently in beta. Their vision is bigger, a single, trusted resource for women's health needs. Monica never wants any woman to walk alone after pregnancy loss or infertility struggles, so the Rhea community was born out of her own personal circumstances where the community she needed and wanted didn't exist. So she's creating it. At Rhea, their mission is to empower women to step into their reproductive power. And Monica also comes from a marketing background, so fellow marketing nerd like me. And so she is definitely lending her talents and her skills to, promoting Rhea and building this community. So I think she has some really unique skill sets there to help actually do this. So
There you
I'm
go.
super excited for it.
Cool. Yeah, the community building side is kind of overlooked in the healthcare space, I think, a lot. So that this should be a cool conversation on a topic we don't get to cover too much. So without further ado, here is our conversation with Monica from Rhea.
Hi, and welcome to Healthcare Uprising podcast. We have Monica Grippo with Rhea with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you both.
Great. So we're gonna just dive right in like we always do. Rhea is a new venture for you, and although you've been in the marketing world, I think, for a while too, so we are kindred spirits, you and I. um, Tell us about what inspired you to build this organization and really like what's the goal? What are you intending to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rhea is a digital community and it is built to support women through infertility, pregnancy loss, and all of the emotional challenges that come along with this journey. It was really born out of my own lived experience, a lot of rage, a lot of grief over what has been about 7 years. And I am still on this journey. So I'm honestly building this community for all the women that need the support, but I need it too. So in a lot of ways, I'm building what I never had throughout this entire process.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. It seems that many of the founders that come on our show um, are creating these products or programs or organizations that are serving a need that they had and could not fulfill. So I love that.
Yeah, it's so common because you need to have a successful company, right? There has to be a market for a solution for some sort of problem. And especially in women's health, that has been very, for many, many years, decades, underfunded, under-researched. We're living these experiences, and I think women are taking their knowledge and their experience in the world, whether that's operations, tech, marketing, and thinking about how do I build something and apply my skill sets, something that's going to benefit, that's very much needed and will benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. And that is also I would say, pretty common theme, right, Jeremy? That this underfunded women's health, because we meet quite a few people in the women's health, that femtech space. So,
Yeah, not just underfunded, but under-researched. No one's
mhm.
paid attention to it before. It's a new thing for people to be paying attention to these things.
Which
So
is kind of crazy, right? When you think about it, because,
I didn't realize how bad it was. I knew there was a disparity there, but I really didn't know how bad it was till we started this podcast.
yeah. So we're grateful for you and what
Yeah.
you're doing. And I think a lot of people will be as well, because infertility and pregnancy loss is pretty common.
So you obviously had a personal experience with that, which we can get into as we go. But first, I would actually like to know, what did you have a tech background? Because you said, bringing your skills to the table. What
No.
skills did you have to begin with, or did you just start from scratch with your personal experience?
Yeah, so no technical background. My background is in marketing and PR in the food and restaurant industry. But I've worked with a lot of startups. So I have not built something from zero. So this is, totally it is different. It's a lot different to go from nothing to one, to something. But yeah, it's really using my lived experience and then more of my comms and marketing background. I did join a tech accelerator about a year ago that really kind of pushed me to do this because I knew I needed that accountability. And what I also needed was the confidence to build essentially a tech product empowered by tech with no technical background. So the accelerator that I joined was founded by a woman, Nomiki Petrola, and her mission is all about helping women get from idea to launch to scale in the tech space.
Future episode.
Yeah. One
Incredible.
thing leads to
So
another.
that I was honestly expecting you to say you had some kind of background that made it, natural for you to get into that, but you didn't. You were like, I'm just going to make this happen.
Yeah,
That's
and I
really
would
cool.
say the majority of women in this accelerator do not have technical backgrounds. It is specifically built for them to give them the tools and honestly that confidence and that empowerment of like you don't need a technical background, especially in today's day and age with AI and so many off-the-shelf platforms. Like you can get something together to get it off the ground and prove out your model, prove that there's product market fit before you even think about getting any sort of funding or backing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I always say too, being a fellow marketer, if you ever to like run your company, one of the best people to run a company is a chief marketing officer and somebody with a marketing background. And it's not always the first person you think of. You think, oh, operations, but marketing touches everything. So I see where this like totally makes sense and with your skill set and your talent and everything. Plus, I like to cheer on a fellow marketeer.
Yeah, and it's cool that there's a tool out there that can help you build that technical side without having to
Yeah,
go through the process of learning it all yourself.
right.
'Cause
Right.
that could take years.
Yeah, it does.
Um, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it like it doesn't have to anymore. It does not take years. I'm actually going to join this hackathon that is being hosted through this accelerator, but on a platform called Lovable. They're the fastest growing no code AI tool. They're based out of the UK and like I just can't wait to build something from nothing, knowing no code. And I'm just like so jazzed about it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just would love to say to anyone listening, like if you have an idea that you want to see out there, but think like, but I'm not a technical person or I don't know how to use AI, like you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, that's really cool.
So let's dig into kind of the specifics, right? So and also we need you to share with us what the meaning behind Rhea is, as well, because we're sure it's something really interesting. So
Well, Rhea was a Greek goddess of motherhood and fertility. Um, and also, what I found kind of beautiful is representing peace and calm, which honestly are two things that are pretty much completely missing from our healthcare system, especially when you're going through something like infertility and pregnancy loss. So, I also think the name is beautiful. It's really short and memorable, which from my branding marketing background, I love. I love something that people can kind of easily remember and pronounce.
yeah. So tell us a little bit more in detail about what you're going to be doing with this. And I think too, you're fairly new, right, into the building of this organization, right? So not too far down
Yes.
the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So very fresh. Launched at the end of March. So we are just a little over a month in. There's 70 members who have joined. And it, like I said, it's a digital community. So it is a space for people to land and find others that are in similar places throughout their journey. So if you're someone who is just trying to conceive and still in that phase and struggling versus someone maybe who's going through IVF multiple rounds or just experienced a loss. The idea is that within the community, you can easily find people on a similar path as you and connect with them. So it's a platform that is based on chat messages. You can direct message people if you want to talk to them. There's threads on different topics, things like that. And then we have already hosted two workshops. One was a sacred rage circle, which was incredible. I'm happy to share more. And also a mindful grieving workshop for those who have experienced pregnancy loss. And we also have two more lined up with a naturopath who specializes in fertility and a registered nurse with grain fertility to help people kind of ask any questions that they have about IVF and IUI and going through the process and financing it. So, what I'm really trying to do is create this ecosystem where people who are going through the same similar experiences have somewhere to land so that they know they are not alone. There are people that are on similar paths as you. And then, secondly, bringing on experts who can be resources. And there's we're building out this essentially marketplace database of companies, providers, founders who have products that serve this community, and then bringing in this expert information and workshops. And the first two, the feedback has been incredible. They were very intimate, about 6, 7 people joined per. And what I heard overwhelmingly was just thank you for creating this space to just feel the anger that I have of going through everything of, the dismissals, the unanswered questions, the like emotional toll that it takes to go through an infertility or pregnancy loss. And same with grief. We as a culture are very much, and from like a company standpoint, all the things in fertility, we're like, we want to fix things. Like we want to get over it and get on to the next. But in reality, we need to sit and honor our grief. It's so, so important. And so we started with kind of these very emotional spaces that, safe spaces to hold the emotions, and then moving on to more workshops that will get a little bit more, medical and scientific too.
And are the workshops virtual? Because you've got
Yes.
probably maybe even a global community, maybe not yet, but at least US based.
Yes. So mostly US based. There's a couple outside of Europe, but yeah, my vision is to build this to a place where there are enough people that we can start having more in-person events and workshops and things like that. But for now, it is all virtual.
And I want to just point out too, I'm pretty open about like my personal experiences on the show. So if we're meeting with somebody like you, and we cover so much stuff in women's health. So like, I'm 48, so like I've gone through like a lot of things in this lifetime, and infertility is one of them. And so I'd like to share that too because I think it 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 just it's common, right? And it's more, and I had nobody to talk to when I went through that. And I ultimately was able to have two children, but it wasn't easy. Um, and I felt very alone. And when I was going through it, and these kinds of resources just didn't exist in 2009, 2007, 5, in that area when I was trying for my first, who was 16. So I have a 16-year-old. um, Actually, funny, I drove past his hospital there that he was born in yesterday, and I took a picture of it. And I was like, "Hey, here's the picture of." He thought it was actually pretty cool. I was down in Phoenix, but yeah, and infertility, such a common thing. It was a painful experience for me to go through, and I remember when everyone was getting pregnant around me, and I would cry, and so they kept saying they would tell Jake, my husband, and they'd say, "Don't tell her." That sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you for
I'm happy you're doing this. And and you said, you this is born out of your own personal experiences. Are you like willing to share a little bit more about that and kind of like what you went through and Um, just I think
Yeah,
it resonates when we can share our
absolutely.
stories.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for sharing that. First of all, you're so right that it's common. And I think people are finally starting to be very vocal about it. And
Hmm.
so women are starting to story tell, and that's shattering the shame around it. And that's what's exciting to really see. Yeah, so my journey started about 8 years ago. I had a first trimester miscarriage, and I had really terrible support from my OB. My OB would not confirm that it was a miscarriage, but I was like, but like, what if it is? We can't do anything. And she's like, well, we can come and do blood work to just see if your, hormone levels are growing. And I was like, well, I'm not going to come in to get like pricked for, if it's happening, it's happening. Like, we can't stop it from happening. So that was my decision, but nowhere in that conversation, I think my OB felt like because it was still early, she could not confirm anything, even though the size of the pregnancy was not growing. I went through my miscarriage at home, and it was the most physically traumatizing thing to this day because I did not know what to expect. My husband and I were like looking at each other like, how much blood is too much blood? Trying to call the on-call doctor, throwing up and being like, what? Like, is this normal? Like, what am I in for? And, the fact that I had no preparation for what was going to like physically happen to me, like messed with me mentally and emotionally. So that was my first experience. And then about a year later, I was pregnant again, and almost a year to the day, I ended up having an ectopic pregnancy. And what that is that the embryo starts to develop in your fallopian tube. So there really is no way to save that pregnancy. And I honestly feel that the fact that two of my close friends had ectopic pregnancies and told me about it, even though it is very uncommon, I think that might have saved my life because I am not a person to go to the ER or like the doctor if something's wrong. If this had been my first and I had never heard of anyone having an ectopic pregnancy, I might have just like waited it out. But it becomes life-threatening because as the embryo grows, it ruptures your fallopian tube, so you have internal bleeding. So on my birthday, I was at a 24-hour clinic getting a medication to essentially have an abortion. It stops the cells from multiplying. Was at home, stayed home, told my boss. I was like pretty transparent because I had a new job at the time. I was like, and this is what I'm going through. And I ended up having to go to the ER and have an emergency surgery to remove the pregnancy because the tube started rupturing. So that was scenario, that was, pregnancy number two. And for more than 2 years after that, I tried everything under the sun to avoid IVF. I could get pregnant, but had two losses. So I was like, I can do this and did elimination diet, found I had Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition that impacts the thyroid.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just gonna say that's a thyroid issue, huh? Yeah.
and again, pretty common among women, and we could probably do a whole I mean, I'm not a doctor, so
Hmm.
not the person, but like
I've
autoimmune.
had some thyroid stuff, so yeah, get it.
And so, yeah, I went through this whole like trying to get pregnant naturally and then had to really heavily grieve the fact that it's probably not going to happen. And we were kind of like at our last, tries of trying to do it without assistance and then ended up going the IVF route, which thankfully we ended up having a daughter. Our daughter's almost 3, and I think
Congrats. That's amazing.
she is our little miracle.
Hmm.
And we have embryos. We had a really successful first round of IVF, which honestly I was just so thankful because many people go through rounds and rounds, and it is emotionally, financially, physically just such a toll.
Hmm.
Um, so, we do have embryos left. We did another transfer last year, and I had a second trimester miscarriage in September. And
Mm.
honestly, at that time, I was in the throes of figuring out, do I launch this community? And after that experience, I was like, fuck yes, I'm launching. Like, I'm like, I have to do this.
Build it and they will come.
You've been through it a few times now then. That yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the thing, and honestly, it was more just rage more than anything.
Mm.
I could not get a procedure to essentially remove the pregnancy at my hospital because of religious affiliation. And so in the midst of this like emotionally devastating time, I was scrambling to get the care that I needed. And I was
Mm.
like, what world am I living in? And
Mm.
so while Rhea is not going to provide that medical care, what I'm trying to do is give women a place to land and make sure that they know going into some of these situations that there are other options and they need to be thinking about the care and like preparing themselves for these situations in a way. Um, there
Mm.
was a member in our community who was going through a miscarriage and her body was not naturally getting rid of it. So she was trying to avoid a DNC and wanted to get medication, and her hospital would not give her one of the medications. It is a common abortion medication. And so it,
Uh,
I messaged her and I'm like, have you reached out to Planned Parenthood? Because
Planned Parenthood. They do
I
good
had
things.
like I went to a clinic who actually got me to a hospital who I was able to get the procedure at. And you just kind of, again, you just have to advocate for yourself. But when there are these, challenging times, I just want to decrease the amount of time and the hoops that women have to jump through to get where they need to be.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
glad you brought this up actually, because with the overturn of Roe, it's putting women in really precarious positions. And what I hadn't considered actually was the hospital religious affiliation. Like if it's a Catholic hospital, I'm assuming, um, that would be my assumption anyway, that's an issue whether Roe versus Wade even like existed, right? Like that's just a religious thing. And but it's like oh my gosh, sorry. I'm gonna like go down a tangent here. I just get so pissed off about this stuff. I honestly do. I'm so passionate about women getting the
well,
care that they need.
it comes back to your last personal experience, or I'm sorry, it was the middle. You had a lot going on there. Um, the one, the baby's not grown in the right place. It's
no,
not going to happen. You're not going to be able to carry this baby to term. And if you try, you're going to die. And now that most places, as far as I know, I mean, we're in Arizona. Odds are they're not going to help you here anymore.
Yeah.
They're
What do
going to
you
let
do?
you die. Like, what do you do about that? Like,
that is that is a great question. Um, there are women traveling to different states to get care.
Hmm.
That is what many have had to resort to. Um, the clinic that I ended up going to in LA, just kind of like in between because they ultimately couldn't give me the procedure because I was too far along. I was talking to them and they're like, you are you are still lucky that you are in California.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So if you were in Texas, you'd be screwed.
Right. They'll be like, sorry,
And
you don't matter to us.
yeah,
That's what I hear, right? That's
Yeah.
the message that you get is that they don't care about you.
because as long as they're hearing a heartbeat, which that is what state I was in when I had the ectopic, a lot of the times doctors like kind of the line is, do we still hear a heartbeat? And it's still it's still a baby. So we can't take the right intervention, even if that intervention means the saving the life of the mother. I mean, that's not right. So
No,
It makes no sense. They're trying to protect a baby that isn't going to be able to make it to term at the expense of the mother's life.
yeah.
There's no logic there. There really
seriously.
isn't.
Oh, so maddening.
Like if you want to argue against voluntary abortion, I'm still not going to agree with you, but I get it.
Yeah.
like trying to keep people from getting necessary medical attention to keep them alive, like it's never gonna float with me. It's just
It-
never gonna.
It's
No.
bonkers.
And
Bonkers.
abortion is healthcare.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like what is it? Like 98+% of abortions are done because of medical necessity.
Yeah.
Like
People,
there's not a lot of people just going out and going, I'm just gonna get an abortion.
right.
I mean, it happens, but it's so rare
Yeah.
compared to the total.
That's what the message is from the other side,
Well,
though.
yeah, like they really they message it like anyone who's getting an abortion is doing it just because they want to.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go through that
No, yeah,
procedure.
like nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Even the people who do it voluntarily, which is a very small percentage, it's still like they're gonna suffer major trauma from that,
Hmm.
emotionally, mentally,
Yeah.
maybe even physically. Like it's still not something they really want to do, you know what I mean?
Right. Mm.
Absolutely. And the
Anyway,
implication of,
Anyway.
I mean, we could go down, a whole wormhole here, but the implications of
Mhm.
forcing women to have children who are not prepared to means they're more likely to live in poverty. They're more
Right.
likely to have many issues when it comes to caring for their family and their health. And so it's just a waterfall effect. So in no world do I support restrictions to reproductive care.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. We are with you 100%.
100%.
Yeah, this is stuff we need to talk about. So not to go down that rabbit hole too far because I will, and so will Jeremy.
I'll talk all day.
Yeah, we'll just keep going. Um,
You want to talk about rage?
yeah, oh, can we talk about rage? Actually,
It's
that is I want to hear about this rage workshop because like who doesn't need a rage workshop, but like especially in this kind of situation. So maybe you can share a little bit about that because that's part of what you're offering with Rhea.
Yeah, and you're so spot on. There's a lot of reasons to rage. There's a lot of injustice in the world. There's a lot happening. And the truth is that rage is sacred. It is an emotion that needs to be honored because when it is, it tells us a lot. There's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of power. I mean, Rhea would not be here if I wasn't enraged with so many things along the way, right? In my experience, that I'm like, this needs to be better. Um, so our first event was a Sacred Rage Circle hosted by Ruby Shang. She is an intuitive guide. She's incredible. She truly has a gift. And what it was an intimate group via Zoom, and we just talked about it and we held space for it, right? So we took time to ask ourselves, like, when was the first time we actually felt anger? Like, what happened? Where did we feel it in our body? So we started to get like deep into just like, childhood anger and when does it come up for us now? And what is it trying to tell us? And so it's just a lot of it is just holding the space to like feel it and ask those questions. And then by the end of and we shared, people really were forthcoming around like what came up for them, where do they feel it in their body? And then we let it out. And what it wasn't like primal screaming, it was a lot of like, do what you need to do with your body, like dance, like we played music and we just like honored it. And I think it's part of the reason why I love concerts. Like I love going to live music because like I need to dance and I just like need to let my body like release like everything that it holds on to. And so I think it was just just creating that space and letting people take the time in their day, maybe the first time in their lives, to just talk to, themselves, like go inward to feel it. So yeah, it was a really special moment for us.
Yeah, I love that.
We talked about that live music element back in episode 6 with Art Pharmacy.
Yeah, Jeremy and I are big fans of live music, so we are
I've been to literally thousands of concerts in my life. I can't even keep track of all the
yeah.
bands I've seen.
Same. I don't even remember. Sometimes I'll come across an old ticket, when they actually used to give out tickets, and
The
I'll be
best
like, "Oh, I didn't even realize I saw that
We're,
band."
we're going to a concert on Sunday.
Yeah.
concert.
Yola Tango at the Orpheum.
Mhm.
That's one you can dance out some rage.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely,
love it.
100%.
I
It's
love
fun. I'm actually part of a group here in Flagstaff, actually on the board. It's called the She Wolf Project, and we howl.
Nice.
it.
That's our thing.
It's funny when you said it's not primal scream therapy because I was going to specifically ask if it was because I'm a big fan of primal scream therapy.
Just going out in the woods.
Oh, it works so well. You go out to middle of nowhere and literally just scream as loud as you can, like build it up and just oh, it feels so good.
It
Like I
does.
can't
I'm
even tell you how
sure.
good it feels.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that feels good. We did say, we asked people to bring pillows if they wanted to scream it out at least. I mean, because
Oh,
most people are probably in their homes and maybe at somewhere at work.
right?
But yeah, I mean, whatever you need, right, to like get that release out, it's like it's so important.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that we all need to scream a little bit
Yeah.
or howl.
I
Yeah,
like the howl.
Yeah, we howl. Well, we're
That's pretty good.
she wolves,
Hell
so
yeah.
we howl in group like all the time. It's amazing at all of our events. We howl at least like 3 or 4 times as a group. So
wow.
Yeah, and when you do it as a group, it's even better.
yeah,
It
it
really is
it
like you
does.
get that communal energy
Yep,
going with it.
you get
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And speaking of communal energy, and you're building a community for women dealing with infertility,
We're so good at
and
the
we
segue
are
today.
so good at the segues. And pregnancy loss. I know sometimes I just have to pat myself on the back. But the one thing I want to talk about because it seems, and again, maybe it's because we're talking about it more, just like everything, and social media has like given a platform for people to use, their voices. But do you think, from your perspective and like the research that you've done, and just being kind of in it, right? Is is there an increase? Is there really legitimately an increase in infertility and pregnancy loss? Maybe infertility more so than pregnancy loss. And like we're talking about it more. Like is there a
Um,
correlation there, or is it just legitimately really increasing from
yeah,
what you know?
I mean, from the research and the numbers,
Hmm.
infertility is increasing. So part of part of it is there have been things that are more frequently diagnosed now that just
Mm,
were ignored for a long time or often ignored. But there's a lot of things that are contributing to it that have been talked about again by doctors, researchers, but our world has just become more toxic and stressful. And we're having kids later too, right? So that definitely affects just your ability, like your natural ability to get pregnant later in life, like is impacted as you age. So there's a lot of, it's like a cocktail of reasons that are kind of all impacting infertility rates.
Let's not forget the dropping sperm counts.
Yeah,
right. We
you.
covered that in a recent podcast with hair fertility, which is addressing, well, it's basically at home sperm testing, but we did talk about the rising infertility rates among men.
Yes, that's such an important point. And I've also had conversations with them. So excited to see potential partnership there because a lot of the time the default is like, what's wrong with the woman? Like, what's wrong
Hmm.
with me? And a lot of the times, 50% of the time, if there is a fertility issue, it is the male factor. And because it's becoming more at the forefront, but sometimes like that testing isn't done till like way down the road and you uncover something that could have been addressed earlier on. But I mean, I was on my husband about the drinking and the diet. I was
Hmm.
like, listen, buddy, like this isn't just me. Like we all need to like clean up our act a little bit to give ourselves, the best chance here.
Yeah.
Because it is what people do. The woman is the one who has the baby, so everybody just kind of puts it on the woman that, oh, well, if you can't have a baby, it's because of you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like you just said, half the time it's the guy.
Right.
So keep that in mind too.
Until immaculate conception is actually a real thing. This is a two-way street.
I mean, the Y chromosome is evolving out, and eventually it does look like humans will be in kind of an asexual species, but give us a few million years on that.
Right.
That's a different topic. Excuse me, I'm tangenting.
I I am glad though. That's so cool that you're already connecting with hair fertility, which doesn't surprise me either. And Jeremy, with all the people that we bring on, the Uprising is there's so many direct connections. We're always like, we need to. I think we even joked last time it was natural cycles and hair fertility need to have a baby.
Yeah, like they should really sell a package together. They really
Right.
should.
Like all of you are so intertwined, like addressing one piece of this kind of broader, right? Broader issue around um, making babies
Yeah, just fertility in general. Yeah.
or choosing when you want to have a family, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, my bigger, broader vision, and actually what I went into the accelerated thinking about was how do we create this one-stop shop to support women throughout their entire reproductive journey? Because there's a ton of amazing innovation, but it's really fragmented. So you're still going down the Reddits and the Googles and AI and whatever. And ultimately, my goal is to try to support women more emotionally going through this, but decrease that time of getting the support that they need. I want my daughter to know about her body fully, like when she gets her period, like she knows what's happening with her body and her cycle. It's not when she's trying to have a baby that she's learning about that. So there's just so much room for improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this big, beautiful universe out there filled with people like you and these great organizations that are coming together. It's like putting a puzzle together. So,
Yes.
and I love seeing that. I love seeing the puzzle come together. So,
Yeah, it's happening. There's a lot of amazing momentum in this space, and um, I'm seeing more of that, like, hey, we need to like collaborate and help each other
mhm.
because the rising tide lifts all boats, kind of,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's even like an optional thing at this point. This stuff has to be done, right?
Yeah.
And especially with the political climate we were just talking about,
Oh, yeah.
where, the system didn't want to take care of you to begin with. Now it's against you. Like before, it just didn't care. That's kind of how people felt like the system just didn't really care. Now it's actively working against you. And really, the only thing you can do about that in a country like this is build a community of people that can come together and in a single voice say, we're here, man. We need this, and you need to get out of the way.
Jeremy for president.
Woo!
That was a
Pretty
great
sure they
speech.
make you wear shoes for that job. I'd be a better speechwriter than politician.
This, this is probably true.
I don't know. Maybe Flagstaff City Council. I might be able to pull that
There
one
you
off
go. Yeah.
just because it's Flagstaff.
There's a bunch of hippies up here.
No.
I love it. I need to visit you guys.
Yeah. So, and actually, another thing I want to make sure that we touch on today too, um, infertility, obviously rising issues, as we're having children later, the toxic environments that are, impacting our actual bodies, right? That are changing how fertile or infertile we are. Um, and recently, um, to bring it back to some of the politics here, because well, we just
It's
kind of
unavoidable in
it
this conversation right
it
now.
just kind of happens. But recently there has been some talk or ideas being thrown out from the Trump administration regarding how do we incentivize women to have more children because the rate of childbirth is going down. Infertility clearly playing a role in this, right? In the fact that we are waiting later, and that is also we're waiting later for a lot of different reasons. One, I mean, I think is that women want their careers, right? And so you're going to push it off. That was definitely part of my reasoning. But then the cost of living, right? Housing, college, like we can't afford it, right? Like you're not going to bring children into the world if you can't afford it, right? And so there's this like idea of like, oh, we'll do this $5,000 uh uh payment essentially. And I'm like, dude, 5,000 is not going to force anyone to have a kid. You realize all of the bigger issues. So
Yeah.
I want
It
to,
costs over $1 million to raise a kid. They're like, how about
right.
5 grand?
Yeah, like
Come on, man.
let's maybe address some of the bigger issues. So I want to talk to you about this. Like I want to hear what you think. I want to hear your perspective. You're like so in the space. So,
I, I think I heard it best, and I think it was a Washington Post article. I don't know if it was an op-ed. I'll have to look it up. But the writer was like, it's a fart in the wind. Like that is literally what $5,000 is in this journey. Um, yeah, I mean, it's on average around 300,000 plus to raise a child from, to 18, and that doesn't include college and everything. So like financially, it's just a blip. But there are major policy initiatives that have been championed for years and years, like universal childcare, like national paid maternity leave. How about real change? So I will just, there's so many things, right, that we need to fix, but like these are two policies that countries all over the world have because it is it's the foundation. It's like fundamental to supporting society and parents, women who are perpetuating humanity. So it is embarrassing. It is honestly disgusting that the world's richest country does not have paid maternity leave. I mean, it's just, if that is not the biggest indicator of our, greed complex and like
mhm.
funneling money to the wrong thing, um, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
It's shameful.
it
And,
is.
and don't forget that before they offered you 5 grand to have a kid, they repealed the child tax credit,
Right.
which would actually have given you more than that.
It is,
It's
it's,
bonkers. I say
it,
that a
it,
lot.
It's mind blowing how stupid our country is right now.
Yeah.
It really is mind blowing.
Yeah.
There's no
um,
logic to it at all.
yeah, that's a great way to put it is like, what's the strategy here? Like, I
Hmm.
mean, it's performative at best and truly harmful at worst when you want to throw a $5,000 incentive out there. It's just,
It's insulting.
it is.
It
And
is. It really is to
That
everyone involved.
that was the first word that came to my mind when I heard that. I was like, are you shitting me?
It makes you want to slap someone in the face.
Yeah. It's
Like you wish you could just slap them
I
for
yeah.
saying it.
the good that primal scream, like
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go. It helps with this.
I had
Exactly.
that
That
feeling, I think, when I read it first for the first time in a headline. I was like,
really?
why did I just scream?
Are we in the
yeah.
upside down? Yes, we are. Um, yeah, it is kind of bonkers, and I use that word a lot, or in healthcare and the issues that we face, in literally the most richest country in the world, and like, why are we still having these issues? Like, it's just like it. I don't get it. And to your point, you were saying about not even the cost of living and like, cost of education, but like the paid maternity leave, the Head Start, right? Like there's another one. Like we're going to cut Head Start. Like that's the reason that people can actually work is because they can take their children there. And they're fantastic programs, right? Like don't take that away. Give us more, actually. We need more. We have a childcare crisis in this country right now, and you want us to have more kids? Like, what is this? Anyway, like, let's get the formula like figured out here because right now it is like upside down backwards. So yeah, I'm gonna tangent again. Jeremy, stop me.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
relevant. I mean, this is so relevant because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I agree, and I was in your same boat. I think of like I was terrified of how am I going to support a child and raise a family and my career that I mean, I want to continue to build my career, but like financially I have like I don't have the luxury of, you know, not having a dual income family.
Hmm.
At least, you know, at that moment, I was like terrified. And luckily my employer did support with, and I live in California that has state funded disability and paid family leave. Again, people love to hate on California and high taxes, but there's a lot of benefit to, you
Yeah.
know, having these social safety nets that are
Yeah.
really necessary. Um, so yeah, I think that because of all those things, I did delay having kids and even trying to have kids because I was like, I can't afford it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
a lot of it is money too. Like it's not, it's a classist thing in a lot of ways where the rich people want poor people to have a lot of poor kids so they can basically be their wage slaves. Because if the poor people stop having kids, who's going to be the wage slaves to the rich people?
Mm.
The rich people's kids can't work. Are you
No,
kidding me?
no,
That
definitely not.
that's a big part of it too. Like
Yeah,
again, that's kind of a different conversation. We're a healthcare podcast, not a
that's right.
political podcast. But and if you really want to get into the meaning behind these things, it goes a lot deeper than just misogyny and
Yeah.
things like that. It's actually even worse.
And there's a lot of politics in healthcare, and that is just what it is, which is why we end up kind of tapping into that a lot in the conversations that we have because you just can't avoid it because politics dictate a lot of the programs that we have. They influence how they're delivered, what kind of information, organizations like yours or like, we've had a couple of, I think we've done a couple of shows where, um, you know, access to clinical research helps like feed the AI, the machine learning kind of parts of these like very, tech focused products. And if we don't have access to that stuff, right, then how can we deliver the care that Americans need? And that comes from the top, right? Like it starts up here, and that is driven by political decisions. And anyway, yeah, there we go again. This has been the Tangent Podcast. Let's just call it the Tangent Podcast.
I don't feel that way. I feel like
Well,
everything is
it
Yeah,
relevant.
that's the thing. It's so entrenched in it.
it really is. It really
You know, you
is.
can't talk about abortion without talking about politics. You
Right.
can't have a strictly healthcare conversation about abortion anymore because you can't get the healthcare it takes to properly get your abortion because of the politics.
Yeah, what just is blows my mind
It's part of the conversation now.
that this happens, and I'm so glad that you shared your story. Because it is important, right? It's why you're here. It's why you're delivering this community and these workshops. I don't know. What do you think's changing, like around infertility and supporting women through pregnancy loss, like kind of in like the grand scheme of things, like as it's a bigger and bigger part of like the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm starting to see it become a little bit more integrated. There's just a growing recognition that mental health, trauma, chronic conditions all play a role in fertility. There's a lot more innovation around like really trying to get to root causes versus just oh, you're having trouble for 6 months or a year, depending on your age. Now we'll shuffle you over to the fertility clinic. Do you want to do these two things? Like pick A or B. Like it's not, it shouldn't be that like, I don't know.
Compartmentalized and linear.
Yeah, exact. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because it is complex and layered, and I'm starting to see there be more resources that are more personalized and individualized, which is really exciting across all of healthcare, right?
Hmm.
Because we just need it to be more personalized and preventative too, right? Because if our children know more about their bodies and reproductive health and how things work and their cycle. They're just more informed and then more empowered, right, to support their health journey down the road. Um, and then I like to say that there is that more emotional piece, I think, coming into all of this. There's companies that are kind of mixing more of like a clinical model with more coaching too, where it's like, I'm here to like support you emotionally a little bit through this versus just like, what's the lab work? Here's your diagnosis. Let's get you on a plan. Like the humanity of it, it seems to be hopefully coming back. And truthfully, I mean, that's where Rhea sits. Like that's what
Hmm.
I bring more of to this experience.
Yeah, I love it. You need a doula.
Yeah.
Like as part of like I'm thinking about our doula episodes that we've done. I mean, you can have a doula for anything, right? Like we all need an advocate or like somebody that's keeping, that's has our interests in mind. It's like a doula for infertility and pregnancy loss would be a beautiful thing. Can somebody please do that if you're
That
listening?
is pretty brilliant.
There,
Right?
I have someone in the platform who does that.
Shut the door.
Oh, we need
Yes.
another doula episode.
Yeah, okay. We need to get her on. This is what happens. We meet somebody and then we get connected with other folks and
We
then
have
we
3 more interviews to do from this
I
conversation. I don't
know.
know if you caught all of them, but
Monica, you're like a you're on fire.
and another very relevant point you made, which plays back into the podcast here, is the personalized and preventative approach to
Hmm.
healthcare that is now becoming kind of the norm. And most of our episodes are about that.
Yep.
It's getting ahead of it and preventing it rather than treating it once you have it.
Hmm.
That's at least half our episodes, if not more.
Yeah, and that's exciting. And that's what gives me hope, right? Like it's happening and it's just more like, how can we continue that
Yeah.
like momentum?
The shift has been happening for a while because I've worked in the healthcare industry, and it used to be like very like reactive and transactional, right? Like the healthcare system wasn't built for consumers, but what's happening, and thanks to COVID, actually, it has catapulted this work, right? And then kind of the onset of like AI and tech and people getting a lot more comfortable with that. Technology is definitely advancing it. And the health systems, right? Like the industry itself cannot bear the weight of these costs anymore. We have to change or it is going to implode on itself. It has already started, and that is in the form of costs, right? And so if we don't get proactive and we don't get into this kind of, as we call it, value-based care, that shift, and then technology having these kinds of programs, getting out ahead of things before they get big, right? That's going to be where the change is going to happen. But we have to have our options, right? Like we have to get what we need for ourselves, right? Like Jeremy needs something different than me, and you need something different than I do. Anyway, it's really awesome to see the entire industry starting to make that shift, and that's so much about what we want to like highlight and shine a light on this show are the people who are actually part of that like
Mhm.
seismic shift that's happening. It is
That's
the
all.
uprising.
Yes,
The
it
uprising.
is the
Yeah,
uprising.
it
Yes.
is. So awesome. This is I feel
Can I ask one more
yeah,
question
yeah, go ahead.
before you totally wrap it up?
You
Because
want
this just occurred to me.
yeah.
So, if your community grows large enough, could you see it turning into more of a political thing and actually being a political advocacy group of some sort and actually pushing back against the revocation of women's rights?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my like entryways into women's health was because I was so frustrated that my insurance did not cover any fertility treatment. So the fact that like I wanted acupuncture for fertility support, I had to pay out of pocket. And all of IVF, we paid for out of pocket. And so I got on Twitter at the time and was like, where are like, who is supporting this bill in California? And ultimately, like, it did just get passed recently, that insurance providers will have to cover reproductive care, but or
That's great.
fertility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So you're already a political advocacy
I just,
advocacy group.
I will say
That's
that
pretty good.
I personally am trying to get, as educated and involved as I can with what, time I can kind of um, allocate there. But I absolutely would like to at least offer the women who are joining who want to channel some of their anger, frustration, grief, whatever it is like I want to make a change. Like I want to make sure that I'm supporting, the political change and the policy work that's happening by some amazing organizations to improve healthcare, not just for women, but for everyone.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, it's definitely at the forefront. I could see us hopefully having growing to be, a force one day, to really pushing policy in the right direction.
That's great.
I love the idea of that. And actually, this is really quite a good place to end on because I was going to ask kind of what's next for you. Like where kind of what are the next big milestones that you're looking to achieve or working towards?
Yeah. So I am slowly growing, the community. I'm kind of splitting my time between getting the word out about Rhea, about, of course, engaging as well, making sure that the women that are in there hear from me, and each other. And then I'm hoping to bring on at least a dozen partnerships, like solid partnerships by the end of the year. And what that truly means is that these companies or providers are fully integrated into the community. We're hosting regular workshops. I'm referring RHEA members to them, and that we're building a like sustainable revenue share model here. I am trying to grow a for-profit company that will be a public benefit corporation. So my goal is to always have the impact that I want to make at the forefront of, why we exist and what we do. So the monetization piece needs to be very thoughtful that, compassion comes first before conversions is what I try to keep at the forefront because that's really what I'm doing. But to be a growing, sustainable, profitable business, I need to get some great partners on board. Yeah, so I'm excited. I would love to have 1,000 people on the platform by the end of the year. I don't think that's too ambitious because from what I'm hearing from, just my organic outreach, like it's really needed, and
Mhm.
the response so far has been really positive.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm cheering for you. So let's why don't you share with us too where can anyone listening where can they find you online? How do they get involved in the community if that's what they want to do?
Yeah, so the website's the best place to go to get started. It's rheacommunity.com, and that's RHEA community.com. And it takes 2 minutes to sign up to join the community. And then anyone who wants to talk about partnership can just contact me directly. And it's just Monica at rheacommunity.com.
Beautiful. I'm on your website. Very nice, by the way.
Thanks. I built it myself. No
There you go.
technical background.
Impressive. See? Always hire a marketer.
Yeah, right. There you go. They can do everything, those
We can
marketers.
do so many things. Well, marketing's such a catch-all, but cool. I see that on there and you've got links to TikTok and LinkedIn and it looks like Instagram on there too. So
Yes.
just go to the website,
We'll put all the links in the show notes.
do all the things. Amazing. Join the community. Send it to your loved ones who need this, please. This is just a brilliant idea. And thank you so much for coming on today and talking about the good work you're doing. I can't wait to see what you do with it. So.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome.
And there you go, our conversation with Monica from Rhea Community. Uh, Very cool community building kind of stuff. Just what I was hoping for from the intro. But why don't you give us our main takeaways here, Heather?
I think you even said it too. It's like when there's a problem in another episode, I don't even know if it was this one. When there's a problem, women come together and like build the community,
Oh yeah, yeah.
solve for it. Um,
That was Kiran Kumar in episode 20, I
oh, that
believe,
was
was
the
on,
timeless
if I
biotech one.
remember
Yeah.
correctly.
But it shows up all the time. And so, if you feel lost, like there's a community there for you, and there's probably a woman building it somewhere, particularly if it is a women's health issue. So I just think that's really cool that Monica used her own personal circumstances, which is kind of a trend, right? With a lot of the people that we come into contact with on this show, they're built out of a need that didn't was not being served, right?
Well, I mean, you
From
got to go through it to understand it, right?
Mhm.
And you're not going to start a community like that unless you understand what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing to point out, and people just don't realize this, that the the statistics around the number of women who suffer pregnancy loss or experience infertility, I'm one of them, is pretty staggering. And I actually pulled these stats off of her webpage because, and I don't know that we actually said it during the show,
Hmm.
but I think we need to say this, that 1 in 4 women experience pregnancy or infant loss, and 1 in 6 people globally are affected by infertility. Those are pretty big numbers.
Yeah, 1 in 6. What's that, like 17%?
That's a
Something
lot.
like that.
That's a lot. So, and infertility rates are rising, obviously, with women having children later in life. We talked about some of the environmental factors that can play into it.
Hmm. Hmm.
We obviously touched on some political stuff in today's show. But hey, it's part of, it's part of it. We can't avoid it. It's what's happening. So,
And yeah, I mean, with what you started with, the community building is so huge for things like this. And especially with today's political climate,
mhm.
there's places where, I mean, no one ever really wants to hear about it to begin with. You know what I mean? It's hard to find people who are willing to listen to you talk about the trauma of pregnancy loss and things like that. It's a very uncomfortable subject for most people. They don't know how to react. You add to that the political climate, and there's places where people will be afraid to talk about this
Yeah.
openly.
Yeah. I mean, depression and anxiety levels, like
Yeah.
is crazy for
So,
somebody dealing with either of these things.
right.
And
So, a community like this, where all these women can come together in a safe place to talk about this, and the fact that it is going to build a community, and ultimately there will be a lot of women
mhm.
getting together in that leads to political change. That can actually change the whole climate
Yep.
and change the whole perspective.
Yeah.
So I really think that, given some time, a platform like this can actually really make some real
Mhm.
positive change in the world.
Yeah,
I
I
really
think
do.
about it as being kind of the beginnings of like groups that are more popular today, like Moms Against Gun Violence, or groups like that.
Yeah.
I think there's one called like Moms Rising. It's all created, and it grows because of starting from something like this, right? Like
Right.
it's somebody makes it happen, they build the community, they find the people, and next thing you know, they're influencing lobbyists and they're
Yeah. It's a full on
influencing.
political movement.
Yeah, so I could see it doing this. Yeah, I could see it happening.
Yeah.
So, and I hope it does. I hope that she is the person to lead that charge. So,
Find some of those all too rare female senators, congressmen in general who, you get one or two of them directly involved. It can change the whole game. Like there's so many things that this can accomplish given time.
yep,
I think this is a really great episode. A
yep,
little different than our usual, but totally worthy of the time.
absolutely. Awesome. Well,
All right.
that's
Well,
all I got.
if you like what you heard, you can find us on all the audio platforms wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find us in video version on YouTube, where we have designated playlists. So if you do want to find just one category of our podcast to follow, YouTube's really the place to do that. We also have a Patreon that is in video form. You can join that community for just as low as $1 a month. I don't know, where else are we these days, Heather?
You can find us online at healthcareuprising.com, and mostly get to us out there on the socials. We are posting I am posting
She does that part.
pretty regularly on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, and we are on Blue Sky. So follow us out there. Always posting when our episodes are coming and dropping. Always sharing what our awesome companies and founders that are coming on the show. Always sharing the good work that they're doing. So great place to kind of just stay in touch with us and keep up on all the good things happening out there.
You know, lots more to come.
Yeah. And if you have a story, either you're a human story, because we do love our human stories on the Uprising, really important part of the show. But if you're a founder, if you represent a company that's doing something really innovative in the healthcare space, a product, a program, a thing, a widget, whatever it is, like maybe you're just a person who's doing something really different. We'd love to hear from you and we'd love to have you on the show. So just shoot us an email at healthcareuprising@gmail.com.
There you go.
Yep. So with that, I think we'll wrap up the show for the day, Jeremy.
That was a hefty dose.
It really was. So that's it for your dose of healthcare this week. Keep looking for the good in the world because sometimes it's where you least expect it.
This has been a Shut Up production.
Shut up!